Hirlock, and welcome to our distinguished guests and visitors to the House today. And important that they would know that what we're discussing is Housing for All, a plan that was introduced just over a year ago following the change of government, and it is a plan that is not another plan in a series of other plans. It's a dramatically different plan. It is a plan that is unprecedented in terms of its scope and its ambition and its comprehensive approach to actually providing adequate housing in our country. It is a plan that is backed by 20 billion euros of state funding. That's taxpayers' money is underpinning this plan. It's further underpinned by legislation passed in this House and in the Dáil. Legislation that gives power to local authorities to, for the first time in well over a decade, build affordable homes, actually use state-owned lands to build not just social homes but also affordable homes. It is a plan that actually will deliver for generations to come, and it's a plan that is determined to not just eliminate homelessness but to put back into reach for every citizen in our country the possibility of having their own secure, affordable, fit-for-purpose home in a place in our country where they want to live. And while the plan is ambitious, it certainly has its challenges. Coming out of, as I said, it was coming from, actually, it was Senator Cummins there mentioned it himself. The numbers, if you look back to 2015, only 5,000 homes being built in our country. We've come out of a decade of undersupply of housing. We have had 2 years of a pandemic. We have a war in Ukraine that has led to very significant supply chain shortages. There has been significant cost inflation and energy inflation. And yet 1 year on from the introduction and the passing of Housing for All, the indicators are strong. They are positive. Housing construction has increased, housing planning applications has increased, and housing completions have increased. In fact, in this year, in the first 3 quarters of the year, there was more than 20,807 new homes completed in the first 3 quarters of this year. That's more than any year since the CSO statistics started in 2011. And in fact, in 2022, we're likely to exceed the target of 24,600. It's not enough. The plan says we need to be delivering somewhere between 30 and 35,000 a year, but in 1 year, considering the circumstances, and let's face it, in those long list of challenges that I mentioned, I didn't mention the delays that are caused by planning objections, reviews to the courts and judicial reviews, which the local authorities tell us don't add months of delays to their ability to deliver homes, social and affordable homes. They add years. They add years. And still, people take these judicial reviews. Still, people object. People who own homes, people who own land, people who will never face homelessness. The Housing for All plan is working, and it's working because it is using every available resource at the state's disposal. It has significant challenges, but the local authorities and the approved housing bodies have to be commended for the way they have adapted. The local authorities have explained to us, and you know, Senator Keoghan mentioned how of the 3 developments in her town opened this week alone, all of them were social housing. I don't think that's a negative. I think our priority should be on providing housing to those who most need help first. But the fact that the local authority wasn't delivering affordable housing is because up until the introduction of Housing for All, the local authority didn't have the legislative basis. It didn't have the framework to actually deliver affordable housing. So I don't think we should be apologising to anybody for that. And the local authorities welcome the fact that they have been empowered to actually deliver affordable housing. And in terms of my own constituency in Dublin Central, you know, what this housing means is that for the first time in a decade, on streets like Dominic Street, Dorset Street, North King Street, Connacht Street, these are streets in the capital, all of these streets, there are new homes not only being built, but actually keys are being allocated. And tenants will move in before Christmas. And in Cabra, on the Cabra Road, on Bannow Road, on Ratos Road, throughout the city and right across the country, the local authorities are gearing up. They are using and availing of the support that is being provided by this government, and it is questionable whether that support will be provided by future governments, but by this government, and the commitment on a prolonged basis to actually deliver, to use the state resources to deliver social and affordable homes. The introduction for the first time ever of affordable cost rental homes, a concept that had been talked about for decades, but that is actually being delivered for the first time in this country, is very welcome. And renters have been at the cold face of this housing crisis. And so the protections, the additional protections for renters, the most recent being the ban on winter evictions, the cap on rents, the extended notice periods, the extended protections for renters, these are all very welcome. But the only way that we can really protect and ensure that renting is a viable option for people into the future is by providing the security of tenure. And that's why the affordable cost rental model is incredibly important. And I want to take issue with something that was said there and the way the right to housing has been alluded to, because there is a commitment in Housing for All for a referendum on housing. It is one that my party supports along with others. It is a matter that has been debated in this House, and there was almost unanimous support, I recall, when we debated the right to housing in this House, for a constitutional amendment to Bunreacht na hÉireann to ensure the right to housing. It's important that that issue is debated. It is important that the Housing Commission has already commenced the work, has engaged in public consultation. I would hope, Minister, that you'll be able to update the House today on when the government expects to receive its report from the Housing Commission on the proposition of amending Bunreacht na hÉireann to include a right to housing. Because it is really important that we as a country and we as a state ensure that the mistakes of the past are never repeated, that the state is committed on a long-term basis to deliver on its obligation to ensure that each and every one of its citizens has access to a safe, secure, affordable home that meets each of its citizens' requirements. We all know that the housing supply has been too low. We all know that housing affordability is too high, and there are far too many people homeless. Everyone on this side of the House is absolutely committed to Housing for All, not for Housing for All's sake, but for the possibility and the potential it has to actually fix our housing problems. Minister, thank you for coming to the House today, for debating this issue, for updating us on it, and I look forward to your reply on my referendum on housing question. Gur Morgad.